exclusive. And right about now, we're going to get straight into this week's record and say a big hello to Dan from Bastille. Welcome along.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? I'm glad the sun is shining.
I'm glad
the sun is shining today.
Amazing,
actually.
amazing out there. Yeah, I'm all good, thanks. I'm excited for this weekend. Excited for record. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one. Obviously, the fact we've got this here, like I was looking at the videos, and I noticed, Yes. Yeah, I normally have my blur. I'm like, yeah, it's here. Like, yeah, it's here. And then you literally can't see it. But in the flesh, I've got it. I've just been looking through it. I love the like notes that we have in it as well. I also have noticed that there's like lots of bits where whose handwriting is this? This has got to be someone from the band's handwriting.
It's a mix of all of our handwriting. Basically, when we did the gig, we had a few days to pull it together, and it was really, really fun, and definitely one of most rewarding gigs we've ever been able to do. But we didn't, like, we only had a small amount of rehearsal time, so we took the decision early doors to have notes and write notes and work from notebooks. So we all got identical notebooks and wrote out whatever was necessary for us, be that lyrics or chords or whatever, because it was completely new arrangements of all the songs. And so we wanted the release to feel as kind of authentic and personal as possible. So there's loads of photos taken on the day by Ollie, who's one of our crew, but he's also a photographer and is also he's a musician as well. So he had 3 jobs that day. He played percussion in the band. He was taking all the photos, and then we made a collage with it. So got all the photos printed out, cut them up, made it into a collage that hopefully gives a cross section of the rehearsal on the day. Yeah, that's it. And and then there's just bits of our notes all over it, bits of our handwriting. Because I guess, you know, in the spirit of Unplugged, wanted to make it as authentic and personal as possible.
It's so crazy. I bet when you were writing these bits, I don't know, like the little scribblings and stuff, you think, oh, you know, maybe I'll rewrite that for the album, like I'll write it up a bit neater. But no, you've literally kept everything, even from this note here, which I don't even know what that says. Worn back.
Yeah, I mean, it's people's like very specific in the moment notes themselves. Like my favorite bit on the back of one thing here is low bing bong, high chorus, which must have meant something to someone, but you know. So there's like some of Kyle's notes, some of Charlie's, some of mine.
Yeah, it's amazing. And well, I mean, the performances were over a year ago now, weren't they? And people have just been calling for the entire of it to be put up so that they can listen back. I think on YouTube there's only a handful of them. I don't think it's all of them. And obviously now this asset's going to be the exclusive. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose this to release on vinyl for Record Store Day?
I think we'd always imagined that we wanted to release it. It was, you know, one of the things that we feel really privileged to have been able to do is, you know, release a bunch of albums, but step back from that and do different versions of the songs. And, you know, we've done reorchestrated orchestral versions, and we wanted this to feel really different, this MTV Unplugged gig. So we looked at, you know, loads of the ones that we listened to growing up, and the way that they're done traditionally, but wanted to bring friends of ours who are singers and you know, classical musicians and stuff into that setting and do something that was completely unique. Like I think the thing that's really fun with this gig is it happened once. We'll never do them like this again. And it was, I think, it was really special for us, but I think everyone that was there that evening, everyone had their phones locked away in little bags. So it was a completely just in the room experience. You know, we fucked up like a fair few times. Had to restart a couple of songs. I think it was potentially Killing Me Softly. I wanted to get it right, and it took me three goes. But yeah, that didn't make it onto the vinyl. We thought we'd spare people that. But there's also a song on there, Hope for the Future, that is one of our more recent songs that we love, and we did for a sort of film and a documentary, and we actually played it at this gig before the song was out. So
is that the Leonardo DiCaprio? Yes, yeah.
The documentary that he produced, yeah. So it was just for many reasons, it was just a really special night, and you know, we obviously recorded it and we're hoping to put it out at some point. But this just seemed like such a great reason and excuse to do it, like Record Store Day. is always really exciting. As a fan, to see what's coming out, what special editions or like limited runs or whatever. So to be part of that, to have an excuse to put out this live album, like it's our first live album. So yeah, for many reasons, it's exciting. And Record Store Day is something that we've always been lucky enough to be involved in. Primarily as music fans, but as we've sort of become a band and spent years doing that, like it's always fun to put out different versions or limited versions or whatever. So yeah, it was really fun putting this package together, both for the MTV Unplugged thing, which is itself is legendary, and Record Store Day, which is pretty legendary too. So I'm very aware that I'm just waffling, so I'm gonna
there's honestly no, but obviously it is all about you and your work, and the idea that this was a live recording and that it was so exclusive, no one else could really like be a part of it. And I do feel like when live recordings, I didn't appreciate them really until more recently. I think maybe COVID really, really like struck a chord with me, and I was returning back to live performances on YouTube and like, sort of the odd streaming one that you could have. But the beauty of this is that you've recorded it so well. And like you said, you're never going to do these versions again. So regardless of the fact that it has been recorded, it is super, super exclusive. And like, I feel like it's one that's like really for the fans. People who are like your real fans are going to just listen to this endlessly and just think it's like the most special thing, even if they weren't there.
I hope so. I mean, yeah, I guess we were thinking about that when we did them. We were like, this is for the room, but obviously this is being recorded for TV, and also, we're recording the audio as well, and we're mixing it as an album. So it's a bit of a weird one where you're doing it live, and that comes with all of its own kind of pressures and stresses and the excitement of that. But also, we're essentially cutting an album in a night, and you have one shot, or like three at Killing Me Softly.
Well, we didn't know that, so it's okay.
Yeah, let's cut that bit on the live Facebook Live. So all the decisions that we made, Charlie Barnes, who is he's like the live guitarist and absolute kind of genius in our band, who does so much. He did these arrangements, and it's really kind of like our music filtered through his brain. He was nodding to loads of other MTV Unplugged and those are sort of like classical musicians, and yeah, we just wanted to make something that felt really special. And I think if you're going to do new versions of songs that are out there and that exist, they have to justify themselves, and that's the way that we always think about it. I think we like try and make everything earn its place and be as interesting as possible. So yeah, it's lovely to have these really different versions out there in the world, and yeah, that people can have it and relive the gig. And if they weren't there, they can close their eyes, stare at the pictures, hold them really close, and imagine that you're yeah.
I think it's out there in the world that Charlie was inspired by, I think it's like Beavis and Butthead or something. I never actually watched that program, but I remember seeing the adverts for it. And he said that it was that got him onto Nirvana's version of Unplugged, and then kind of like brought this to life, or like, that brought this obviously such a left field cover. Like no one would have thought that Bastille would cover Nirvana, but it just works. We do actually have a record store question from Tasty Records in Altrincham, who have asked, what is your favorite record store release that you have done so far? Because there have been a few.
Yeah, probably our mixtape, the Versus mixtape. That was really fun. I mean, we made that mixtape at a time where we were mad busy. Our first album would come out and our whole lives had changed. And I think I was just really obsessed with keeping on making music. So we spent, 3 years basically touring that album, and we were lucky enough to go all over the world. But we were making our second album, Wild World, at the same time, but also I was obsessively making our third mixtape, and the first two don't exist because they're filled with illegally uncleared samples. So our record label never wanted anything to do with them, which is fair. So I always hosted them on like a Dropbox, and people just. But the third one, because
just have to DM you for it.
Yeah. The third one, because we'd done all right. We wanted to do it officially, and so I used I don't know, I tried to take advantage of all these amazing other musicians and artists we were meeting on the road. You know, worked with different strings musicians, and worked with Lizzo, and worked with Haim, and worked with Rag and Bone Man, and worked with Skunk Anansie, and Grades, and like a whole host of different people to do essentially this album. And that was just getting to release that properly was really fun. But this is definitely up there. This feels really special, and I feel like, you know, it's 10 years since we released our first album, and it's mad to me that we're still allowed to make music, and, you know, got to do an MTV Unplugged, and, you know, get to release this record. I want people to have it.
Yeah, I was going to say congrats on 10 years of Bad Blood, and you've got a special record release for that as well, right?
Yeah, so we're doing we're releasing like Bad Blood X, which is Roman numerals for 10. We've put together a kind of a package for that as well. I feel like I always, from the beginning, have felt quite weird about re-releasing stuff, and I feel like if you're going to do it, it's got to justify its existence. So we've just put together quite a like hefty collection of, you know, sessions from that time, and a bunch of other things that hopefully will be fun for people. So put everything in one place to celebrate that. We're doing a tour over the summer, where we're playing the album in full, and I guess just like sort of nodding to that era of our lives, and getting to celebrate it a bit. I think as a band we're not great at celebrating things that we've done. I think we're like a bit awkward and British about stuff, so we'll always just be like, what's next? And I, as someone that writes a lot of music, can get really obsessed with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So, you know, over the last 10 years, we've rarely stopped to sort of take stock of what's happened. And I think we're in a kind of quiet period at the moment where we're writing and recording a lot, and so and enjoying being at home a bit. And so it's been nice to get to put this out, and to get to think about the first album, and, you know, dig up loads of old audio video footage, and put a tour together that hopefully will be a really nice like celebration of that time, and, you know, and everything we've done since. It's been really fun.
It is mad to think that it has been a decade since it dropped.
It is insane. I cannot get my head around it. It's
still listen to all those songs, so there we go.
Yeah, no, it's nuts. It's just, you know, it's weird seeing like Pompeii have little moments on TikTok, and like a whole new set of people coming to those songs. Like, it's obviously really fun and exciting, but it's mad. I mean, you know, for us, we basically never stopped in 10 years, so we still play all those songs all the time. So they're not, you know, and feel so grateful and lucky that, you know, that we have them, and that people like them, and that they've taken us all over the world. So yeah, it's nuts.
So I can see that some people are getting their questions in, which is really nice. We're going to get to those in just a moment's time. And also you can win some Bowers & Wilkins headphones as well. But I've still got a few of my own. Obviously, we are talking about the MTV Unplugged Bastille sessions. And Dan, I think I'm right in saying that you learned to play the guitar for this.
I try. Well, learn and play are like generous terms. I played. I've sort of been messing around on the guitar for a while, and but, you know, everyone was like, mate, we need to make as much sound as possible. You need to pick this up and actually learn how to play it. So Charlie was sending me little video tutorials on how to play the songs, and
sat there on YouTube like, okay, yeah, cool, here we go.
So I kind of did. I mean, I feel like it's like my bad New Year's resolution every year. I'm like, right, must learn guitar this year. Or even like at the moment we're making a guitar album, and I'm like, there's like, what's going to force me into doing it if it's not that? But yeah, so I did. I mean, I don't know how well I learned it, but I tried.
I love the way you knew it was being recorded, not only like audio, but also for TV. And you just reimagined the whole of the songs. And now you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to debut my guitar playing skills on all of that. To be honest, though, like, I mean, I only had about 3 lessons back in the day and gave up. So from my perspective, I thought you smashed it. Are you still playing? Is it still a New Year's resolution?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're trying to write a lot of acoustic songs at the moment. So I am trying, but also it's really boring and nerdy. But there are some really good plugins in Logic that play amazing guitar as well. So
let's not get into that, because I'm sorry, someone showed me an AI Drake song the other day, and I was like, no, but that actually sounds like Drake. What is happening?
The Drake of the Weekend tune is insane. It's that is so. And there was another one of like. There was another clip of like Kanye singing a bunch of different famous tunes. It's so creepy, isn't it?
It's creepy. But what's creepier is the fact that they can't draw fingers. So if
I know, there's funny little stumpy little fingers.
Okay, right. So in terms of the album, back to the music. I know that I feel like I know which one you're going to say to this. But which one for you went through the most change in terms of reimagining the songs?
Well, a lot of them actually. I mean, so like No Bad Days is just basically piano and piano and vocals, which is
that one really got me in my feels. I was like, I'm gonna need to unplug from this for a second.
Thanks. That's I don't know, because we're quite a loud band and there's always loads going on. To have those moments of just stripping it back to like a guitar and a vocal or piano and a vocal, for me is terrifying because I can't sing, but it's also. Did
you just say you can't sing?
Yeah, it's also like it's like a nice point of difference for us. But then I guess Happier is probably the most radically departed. Taking a sort of sad, slow, weird EDM song and turning it into like a barn dance was probably not what anyone had in their minds or needs in their life. But we did it, and it was quite. I think on the night, seeing people react, seeing people's faces, being like, "Oh, is this real?" But then by the end, everyone was like really into it, because obviously it's quite like a not downbeat gig, but it's quite a small. It was small and beautiful, and so just I don't know, doing that was fun. It was funny.
No, Happier was so good, and also you laugh at the beginning. Do you remember why you laughed?
Probably because it's hilarious. It's so ridiculous, and I think I was just looking at the audience. So, when our tour manager was like doing the guest list, my mum and dad came to this gig, and I was like, our tour manager's called Dick, and I was like, Dick, when you put our guests like in their seats, can you just make sure that none of our mates are on the front row, because it's sometimes quite distracting when you catch when you catch the eye of your friend or family or whatever. And he's like, yeah, sure. And then they came to the gig, and there was like a semicircle in the middle. There's like an aisle that went back to like one row. And I walk out on stage, sat down, and mum and dad are like at the end of the aisle, actually 2 meters like straight in front of me the whole gig. I was like, the one thing we didn't want to happen. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice that they were there.
That is so sweet. That is funny. I know what you mean though. It's like sometimes the smaller ones where you can actually see that, like, their facial expressions as well, and it's like someone that and you're like, no.
Yeah. You sort of, particularly in this gig where we put loads of work in, it was quite like, we hadn't had that much rehearsal time, so it's quite sort of stressful. Despite the music being sort of calm and beautiful, there was a lot of like, a lot of work and tension had gone into that. So like the last thing you want to see is like one of your friends and start cracking up, or like look over and see your mates just like chatting to each other, and you're like, guys, not now.
All right, so I want to get some of these questions because I know that we actually have limited time. But Thomas on the Record Club's Facebook page has got involved, and he says, Dan, hi, I love that you guys always support Record Store Day. I was wondering if you're a vinyl collector, and what is your favorite record that you own?
I am a vinyl collector. I've got 2 very, very different records, but I've got like an original copy of like Slipknot by Slipknot that has a limited edition slime green vinyl that I found in a record shop in the US, and I also have a copy of Frank Ocean's Nostalgia Ultra.
Love that you have them to hand.
I was like, we're gonna talk about records, so I just grabbed a few off the shelf. But basically, Nostalgia Ultra never officially came out, so this is like a bootleg, just a bootleg edition. But I love that mixtape so much. So those are potentially my favorites. But I've also got some old records from my mum and dad as well, from their old collection, like the Graduate soundtrack, with loads of like Simon and Garfunkel on it. I've got like a fair amount of hip hop as well. I've got this like Fugees bootleg that I love. Yes, I am a record collector. Maybe less so now. When we're on tour, particularly spending like months and months and months in the US, you sort of look for things to do to give you like regularity and purpose outside of the gigs. And so like there was one particular tour where all we did was drink coffee in pretentious coffee shops around us. And then there was another tour where I was like really obsessively buying records and trying to fill out my record collection of like albums that I love. Yes. So yeah.
We have Sandy on the Record Club's page who says, do you ever write songs envisioning them in their full version as a stripped back version, or do all songs start off as regular and then you get the vision for its stripped back? Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question. So when I write straight into the computer and I write straight into Logic, and so often like production and the song and the recording process are all kind of melded into one. So yeah, generally I will write the full version first and then try and think about how to strip it back. And I think with this and doing a full album's worth, there's an easy version of this where you could just sit down with an acoustic guitar and just sing all the songs acoustically, but we wanted it to be a bit more varied and interesting than that. So which ones are on piano, which ones are on mellotron, like which ones have brass in them, which ones have backing singers, which ones lean it more into piano. Like it's it was always fun to try and think of it as an album and think of it as like an interesting gig that sort of hits upon different sonics. There's woodwind in there and there's a cello, and wanted to give everyone in the show and on stage a couple of moments each to sort of shine through. So yeah.
Hayden on the Record Club's page says, why did you choose Killing Me Softly and Come As You Are for the two covers? Thank you.
So Killing Me Softly, I think, was like the first song that I ever bought. It was the first single I ever got. Yes, and I love it. It's just beautiful. I think like Lauryn Hill, I think is a genius. I love the Fugees so much, and I had it when I was a kid, and I just used to love it so much. It was just haunting, beautiful. The harmonies are amazing, and so it felt like a pretty ambitious one. But we were thinking about what to do, and we were thinking about doing things we'd not done before, and things that really meant a lot to us. And that song means a lot. And we had the support of Bim and Senab and Patrice doing backing vocals, obviously, and the other guys and Charlie as well. And it felt like with the help of them, we could do something that felt special. But yeah, like I love the original. I love the Fugees version. And then Come As You Are. I mean, yeah, potentially quite ambitious and audacious to try and do a Nirvana song and B like nod to one of the best MTV Unplugged ever. But I think Charlie's idea for that was to just not even try and go anywhere near how they do it, so to make it like a sort of dark, slow piano brooding thing rather than trying to go anywhere near them. So hopefully, one of the things that's quite cool though is that in order to release it, you have to get permission from Nirvana and from their estate,
So they okayed it. They listened to it and they okayed it.
Yeah. So either the existing members or their families or whoever like gave it the thumbs up. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been allowed to release it. So that's pretty cool. It's nice to know that someone there didn't think it's the worst thing in the world.
There's something about the Fugees one as well, or like the Fugees version of Killing Me Softly. I imagine that you must have, because you're a fan, you must have been singing it like forever, like around your house, and then when it's the chance to shine, you're like, yes.
Which is sorry, I just completely broke. It was brilliant to get to do it. I was nervous because it's like she sings it so amazingly. But yeah, I think it was fun. It was satisfying. It's the one that I messed up 3 times on the day, so could have gone better. But yeah, it's so beautiful. And then getting to play it with all the amazing musicians that were there on the day really like helped, I think, bring it to life.
Lauren on the Record Club's page says, hey Dan, which artist would you like to go on a world tour with next?
Oh, good question. I'm doing a lot of writing with Ralph from To Kill a King at the moment, and so just to ease, it would be good to go with him. Obviously, I'd love to support like Frank Ocean or Kate Bush or I don't know, any like. There's so many artists.
Kate Bush, imagine that for
if she tour again, that would be fun. Yeah, I don't know really. That's a really good question. I can't, because I think so much of tour is like it's the music obviously, but it's so much of the other time and other stuff around it. Someone like Lizzo would be really fun. It's right now just because she'd be a right laugh. Yeah, good question. Let me have a think.
Chloe on Bastille's Facebook page is asking, what song from Bad Blood are you most excited to sing live again?
Good question. And hello. I don't know. What have we not played in a while? We've not played These Streets in ages. That would be fun. I get to do some really terrible dancing. Well, I mean, I don't have to, but I always end up doing it to distract myself. What else? I feel like Weight of Living Part 2, we've not played in ages. Get Home, we've not played in ages. Yeah, I think These Streets will be the most fun for me.
And Kristen on the Record Club's page is asking, how do you decide on what songs to remix for this type of album? Yeah, did you have free reign from pretty much like any song?
I think MTV were like, could you please play a couple of your singles? That would be great. Which is fair enough. Because it would have been a very different album if we come out and just played like B-sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we wanted to. So I'm just looking at the back now, which is why I'm looking weirdly down there. I think, we wanted to do 2 covers and ones that we'd never done before. I think we wanted to play songs that a couple of new ones that had never been played before, and then kind of nod to each album and play 1 or 2 tracks from each of the albums that we've released. Also, like Give Me the Future wasn't out yet on our last album, so it was kind of fun getting to totally redo a couple of those tunes. Yeah, and Surviving, which we started with, is just like a song from an EP that we did a couple of years ago, but I really love it. It was nice to sort of start the whole gig with just me on acoustic guitar with that song, and slowly bring everyone in one by one. But a lot of thought went into it, and yeah, I think it feels like a slightly different set list to what we normally do.
Honestly, everyone, remember, exclusive this weekend. So Saturday for Record Store Day. Before I let you go, quickly, one shout out for your favourite record store.
Oh, Banquet Records in Kingston. It was sort of really near where I grew up, and so I used to go there. And the gigs they put on are amazing. And yeah, like this, I love everyone that works there. They're just such a great bunch of people, and they're really supportive of new music and established music and records. And yeah.
So that's what we love to hear, obviously. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. That's actually all we have time for today. Obviously, everyone at home, make sure to grab yourself a copy of Bastille's MTV Unplugged exclusive vinyl from your local record shop. It's this Saturday, 22nd of April, Record Store Day. Get out there, get crate digging, and get your hands on one of these. I'm also excited to announce that the winner of this week's Bowers & Wilkins wireless headphones prize is Hayden Brand on the Record Club's page. So slide into the Record Club's DMs and we'll get those headphones to you. Of course, thank you everyone for joining us and sending in your questions. Next guest is going to be announced on the Record Club's social media very soon. So make sure you're following us, and all previous episodes are available to watch back on our YouTube channel. Dan from Bastille, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you. And yeah, we'll be in Rough Trade on Saturday, I think.
Yes.
Doing a signing, yeah. For kids. Thanks so much.